Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and in the Daily Mail today, the far right-wing paper that has been calling as loudly as anyone for Dominic Cummings to go, they reported that he is going to quit his post in 6 months. Now in this video I want to explain why they are likely to be reporting this, and to also explain why I think it's spectacularly unlikely to be true. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So hopefully this is the last one I'm going to have to do directly about Dominic Cummings for a little while. But anyway, why reports that Dominic Cummings is going to quit in 6 months if it isn't true? Leaving aside for a moment the fact that the Daily Mail are one of the worst when it comes to deliberately misleading the public, there would certainly be method in this. Now, from the Daily Mail's point of view, Dominic Cummings is toxic to the Conservative government right now, and he will be toxic for them come the next general election. The Daily Mail would be dead against a Labour government and will pull every dirty trick in the book to see the Conservatives win next time as well. Now, this means that they are going to at some point inevitably have to join some of the other right-wing papers, notably the Times and the Telegraph, in calling for Boris Johnson to be ousted at some point. In fact, even the Spectator, the very far right Spectator, which is edited by the wife of Dominic Cummings, has even called for Boris Johnson to be removed. However, the Daily Mail are also hard Brexit mad, absolutely wetting themselves at the prospect, so they don't want Johnson gone just yet. Besides, if Boris Johnson goes now and the next mug cops for the Brexit plane, better to keep Johnson in place for another year at least in order to not only deliver the hard Brexit, but also shoulder the blame for the consequences. So how does claiming that Cummings will leave his post in 6 months if it's not true help that? The fact of the matter is that public opinion is only of indirect importance on this matter. The only people who can force Boris Johnson to do anything are backbench Tory MPs. And if they'd want to force him to do something popular with the opposition, it would only take 41 of them. The government has a majority of 80, so 41 of them move their votes towards the opposition benches. Assuming the opposition would act as one, that means the government losing any motion that the opposition like to bring up. So although the Mail wanted Johnson to sack Cummings, if he's sticking to his guns, which he is doing, then they need to make sure that Conservative MPs don't do anything to force him to use them. So they turn their attention from trying to get the Prime Minister to do something into trying to get backbenchers to do nothing. Parliament returns next week. The last thing the Mail wants is for the leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer, to defeat a Tory Prime Minister with a majority of 80 for the second time in as many weeks, after Johnson had to back down over the NHS surcharge, which he hasn't actually followed through on yet, but there we go. So what if you told those agitated backbenchers that Dominic Cummings is going to quit in 6 months? Would that calm them down? I think it probably would. You know, we'll have to see, but I think it probably will. Whatever damage this Cummings affair is going to cause has essentially already been caused. Some MPs were sufficiently worried that they have publicly called for Cummings's removal from the post, quite a lot of them. That way, when this surfaces again in 2024, they can say on a personal level that they were on the public side over this. And then also they'll be knowing that Boris Johnson's not going to be around then anyway. And if they think that Dominic Cummings will be leaving in 6 months, well then they might imagine that the damage is going to be limited and that it can be repaired at least for the party before the next election. So that's the motivation for the story. So how do I know it's not true? I mean, the Daily Mail, right-wing paper, it's certainly going to have close ties with members of the government. The reason is quite simple as far as I'm concerned. There is no advantage in Dominic Cummings staying on for 6 months and then leaving. Dominic Cummings is in Downing Street to completely rewrite the way the judiciary, the civil service and Parliament work. He's there to remove as much democratic accountability as he can from the government and help rig the system even more in favour of the Tories for years to come. Essential for the party when you see an ever diminishing number of young voters backing the Conservatives. He cannot hope to complete this in 6 months. Even without COVID slowing everything down, it wouldn't have been possible. And then there's the hold he has over Johnson. Boris Johnson seems to be of the belief that he cannot cope without Cummings, which is why he's put all of his reputation on the line to save this man's job. The motivation for Dominic Cummings to hold on is clear. He has an ambition to fulfil. He might even call it a destiny. And he doesn't care what damage he causes along the way. A friend of his said earlier this week, and this is absolutely backed up by his past behaviour, that Dominic Cummings would not care if his actions mean that the Tories poll even lower than the Green Party at the next election. He isn't a Conservative and he doesn't agree with Conservative thinking. And this is true. When you read what he writes and you listen to what he says, he's using the Conservatives. So why do the Tories go along with it? Well, because they think that his aims are in alignment with theirs. Broadly speaking, a lot of them are. So for Cummings to leave in 6 months would be the same as Boris Johnson essentially saying that he will be doing the same. And I am certain that he has no such plans. I am quite certain he doesn't even recognise the political realities of the situation and that he himself will be ousted before the next general election. And what this smacks of to me is the Theresa May ploy. So when Theresa May faced a rebellion in December 2018, she faced a vote of no confidence in her leadership. She promised to stand down as soon as she'd delivered Brexit. Just let me deliver Brexit, then I'll stand down, she said. She was about to be ousted as leader. That was what she had to say in order to keep her place. But that promise did placate the backbenchers and she won her vote of no confidence. Of course, it only bought her a bit of time. And I think the same motivation exists for Cummings. It's just a way of stopping the backbenchers doing something that the leadership would regret. And in 6 months' time, when Cummings has superglued his arse to the Cabinet Office in Downing Street, the furore will have died down in the public and there'll be no point in those backbenchers bringing it up again. In fact, they will be desperate for nobody to ever bring this up again. Of course, the opposition will do in 2024, which is why Tory MPs will have no option but to drop Johnson before that election. And there are a lot of people saying, is this the thing that has doomed Boris Johnson? I'm not going to say it is, not because it wouldn't have done, but because I thought he was doomed anyway. I just think his performances against Keir Starmer are so woeful. There's no way the Tories can allow this man to lead them into the next general election. And I think, if you look at the polls at the moment, Keir Starmer is doing better than Boris Johnson on a personal level, but the Conservatives are still ahead of Labour. But it has moved. In fact, there's been a seismic shift. Now, I don't expect that seismic shift to continue, but it will slowly be chipped away. There's going to come a point where Labour start polling ahead of the Conservatives. At that point, Tory MPs are going to start getting a bit sweaty. And if it carries on like that, they're going to get very sweaty. But as far as this Cummings affair goes at the moment, the government will have toughed it out, as they set out to do. Of course, it's not over yet. Even in the short term, it's not over yet. But I do think it is entirely possible that this is how the saga ends for now. We will know more after next week's parliamentary goings on, but this is entirely how it could go. But if this is how it ends, does that mean the government have won? Good God, no. Speaking pragmatically, this is an absolute gift for Labour. Their political advisers will be much happier than Boris Johnson's. And not only is this a gift because it will be an easy line of attack for the next election, and indeed any time they wish to bring it up, but and they might as well keep poking at it. It highlights just how politically inept the Prime Minister's most trusted advisor is. His veil of superiority is completely being dispelled, because when the story broke last weekend, all Boris Johnson had to do, had Dominic Cummings advised him correctly, Boris Johnson would have said publicly how disappointed he was in Cummings' behaviour that he knew nothing about, that Dominic Cummings had apologised, was remorseful, blamed the stress of the situation on making a poor decision as a worried father, and that he'd offered his resignation, which Boris Johnson refused. Now, there would have been a small political cost in refusing the resignation when he was so savage with two scientists who broke the rules in less serious circumstances. But that would have been it. Cummings' opponents would have gone mad about it, of course. I'd have done a video saying this is outrageous and he should go, but there wouldn't have been a wider public outcry. It'd have been in the news for a bit and then it would have gone. It would all have been over by this point without any fatal damage to the party's prospects. In fact, you know, Boris Johnson may have come out with a bit of a draw. If he'd have sacked Cummings, he actually could have come out with some gain, but then he'd have lost Cummings. I talked about the way he could have sacked him and still retained Dominic Cummings last week, but, you know, he didn't do that either. So the situation at the moment is, were I one of Labour's political advisors, I'd be looking at this as a big win. And I'd be thinking to myself, they're bound to make similar cock-ups over the next few years as well. This isn't just one thing and now it's over. The way they handled it was so shockingly bad. You're thinking, well, there's going to be a lot more of these situations coming up before. And if they mishandle them like they've mishandled this, we're going to have lots and lots of ammunition come 2024. Besides, they are going to have to get rid of Boris Johnson and, with him, Dominic Cummings at some point. The next Prime Minister would be absolutely mad to keep Dominic Cummings in any similar sort of position. So that's how I read the story in the Mail, which I haven't seen being taken too seriously in any other quarters as well. So I don't think I'm the only one of this opinion. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.